Hello, and on the gaming table today, we're taking a look at a strength and honor battle, the Battle of Watling Street. The Boudican Revolt took place in the UK, the current UK, as a revolt against Roman rule. It took place in 60 or 61 CE, and somewhere west of Birmingham, not too far away. I don't know that much about the battle, but I've got the scenario in the rulebook, so I thought I'd play it out because it's a pretty easy one to do. Now, this video will be the short version. I'll do a longer version later with all the dice rolls. This one's just going to summarize the main parts of the action. So if we look at Boudica's forces, what she has is she's got some Iceni warbands, she's got some Trinovanti warbands, and some Artrabates warbands, as well as some light chariots and some cavalry and skirmishers. Now, Paulinus's forces, the Roman side, he's got 2 veteran legions and 2 auxiliaries and a couple of small cavalry reserves. He is quite outnumbered, as you will see here. So when we laid out the table, this is what it looks like. The Romans are at the bottom. They only have basically 4 units, 4 stands or 4 groups, whereas at the top, the barbarians or the Boudicans have a total of 8, so you can see the Romans are outnumbered. However, the Romans are in a good position that's flanked with woods and also on a hill. The little stones you can see in the middle, about a third of the way from the bottom of the screen, that marks the bottom slope of the hill. The Romans are deployed uphill in this one. Okay, so here the Boudicans are getting ready to charge, and the Romans have a stoic line to defend. So in the first turn, the Boudicans all moved forward in large groups, the warbands on the left moving up more, the chariots on the right moving up quite a bit as well. And the Romans just sat and waited in their turn for the enemy to come at them. In the second turn, the warbands kept coming rather slowly, but they were making some progress, and the Romans just waited again. In the next turn, the warbands again, a little bit staggered. One set of warbands is lagging behind, and the Romans are still waiting. And then eventually the barbarians get themselves basically back in line again, all of the warbands ready to go, with Boudica in the middle there with her Iceni frenzied warband. But the Romans were just sitting there waiting. Then the Romans charged a little bit downhill because of the exposed chariot on the left flank here. Managed to drive it back in disorder and maintain their line without exposing too much here. The warbands then came charging back in. They managed to push back one of the legions on the left there, and the chariots that had been disordered managed to recover and turn back around. Here, chariots on the left flank managed to maneuver into a position that threatens the flank, although they can't enter the woods there, so the auxiliary are safe at the moment. So here's how things stand at the beginning of the Roman turn, and the Romans push back a little bit there, managing to get their legions back into line. But now we've got a huge brawl in the middle of the field here as the legions face off against the warbands and the auxiliary cover the flanks. Over here, these auxiliary didn't move up because they'd exposed their flank to the chariots, and on the other side, similar here, the auxiliary didn't want to leave the flank cover of those woods. In the next turn, barbarians on the left flank charged in. The Trinovanti warbands went into the auxiliary here, pushed them back. Over on the other side here, the chariots managed to move up to cover the flank of the warbands, so this auxiliary can't do anything fancy and duck around the corner there. So here's how things stand at the end of that turn. And for the Romans, not much they could do here. They were trying to push back along the front, and they did manage to push one of the warband sets back there. The Iceni in the middle got pushed back, although Boudica managed to keep them in good order. Then in the next turn, disaster for the Romans. Boudica's units charged back in and managed to completely rout one of the legions. With half the legions now gone, the Romans are in some serious trouble. On the left, more warbands pushed into the auxiliary there, the Trinovanti, pushing back and causing some more damage on that flank. Now the Romans are pretty exposed. And even the Artrabates managed to get in here, their warbands managing to push back the other Roman legion. In the Romans' turn, the Romans managed to push the warbands back again. However, they got charged again in the next turn, and then things started to go downhill pretty quickly. Here, the warbands in the right here, the Artrabates, managed to drive back the legion on the side here, the last remaining solid core of the Roman forces. And not only that, they managed to kill Paulinus in the action, and so that brought an end to the battle. So the Boudican Revolution was a success. The Romans have been driven off, and maybe Britain has been returned to its original owners. Let's wait and see what happens in a future battle. But for now, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.